All right, good morning, good afternoon. This is Miss Layton. I'm excited to work with you all today on ED and past tense verbs. As we know from English, this is a tricky thing because the ED at the end of a word can have three different sounds. So when we hear the word and say the word, we might think we might spell it with a T because it sounds like a T. It might sound like an id, or it might just sound like a D. So this past tense ED can have three different sounds, but we have to know why it sounds different and then how we're going to spell words that have these sounds. So the first one that we're going to look at is when it sounds like a T. All right, so when the ED sounds like a T at the end of the word. Let me give you a few examples. The first example is stopped. Like, my friend told me to stop doing something, and so I stopped. Now listen to the word closely. Stopped. Doesn't it sound like this ED sounds like a T? It doesn't say stopped, nor does it say stopped. It says stopped, right? Another example would be camped. One of my favorite things to do is go camping with my family. So our base word or our root word is camp, and then if I did it in the past, it would be camped. Again, this ED sounds like a T. We also have the word chased. Like, I chased my friend at recess when I was playing tag. Chased. Or the word walked. All of the students of our class walked on the blacktop. And finally, we have cracked. Maybe I cracked my mom's favorite vase and she was so sad. Okay, so these are examples of words when the ED at the end sounds like a T. What do you see in common, or why do you think it might sound like a T? It all has to do with this letter that comes before the ED, or the sound that it makes. Okay, so P, just make a p sound. Put your fingers on the side of your throat by your vocal cords when you're making the p. Now, our vocal cords do not move when we make the p sound, which means that we're also not going to move them when we say the t. So we're going to say stopped, camped. S is also voiceless. That means we don't use our vocal cords for that, and so it's making this say the t and k, k, k. That's only using air. It's not using our vocal cords, and so it's making this ending sound like a T. So these are all examples of when our ED sounds like a T. This might trick you if you're trying to spell these words right, and you hear, oh, it sounds like a T, and so you might write stopped or camped. It sounds right, but this isn't how we spell it because we know these are past tense verbs and we have to use that ED. All right? Next example is when the ED sounds like a D, like a d, d, d. Okay, so this is when it sounds like a D. I'll give you a few examples and see if you can figure out why it might sound that way. For example, the word hugged. Hugged. This one, notice we don't say hugged or hugged. We say hugged. D, d. Right? Next one, filled. You filled my bucket with joy. Filled. yelled. You did not fill my bucket when you yelled at me, which didn't show respect. Or moved. When I came to Denver, I moved across the country. Moved. So in all of these words, the ED sounds like a D. Why do you think that is in these words? Again, it has something to do with this consonant that comes right before that. L, l. So when we say these ones, g, l, and v, they are voiced consonants, which means that we do need our vocal cords to vibrate to say them. Again, put your fingers on the side of your throat and quietly say g, 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 or l, 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 or v, v, v. You should feel vibrations in your throat. Same when you say d, d, d. So when we have one of those consonants, it's going to make this say the d sound. Hugged, filled, yelled, moved. Okay? But we still need, since these are all things that happened in the past, like I hugged my mom this morning, or I filled up the bucket, or I yelled at my brother and then I regretted it, or I moved. Those are things that happened in the past, so we need these ED. Okay? Our last way that the ED can sound is almost like id. So I'm going to write it like that. This is another way it can sound. This occurs, well, I'll show you a few words. Let's see if you can figure it out. This one is a little bit easier. Visited. Notice how this kind of sounds id. Visit, id, visited, visited. Here's our root word, visit. And then to make it past tense, we added that ed. Waited. I waited so long in the lunch line today. Waited. Ended. Notice these are sounding like id, waited, ended, or needed. I needed a hug when I felt sad. Needed. I'm going to circle that consonant that comes before the ED. I want you to do that too. What do you notice now about these consonants? I notice that these ones are a T and these ones are a D. So if our root word ends in a T or a D, like these ones do, the ED will sound like an id. That's because we couldn't say visit or visit. We can't even say that word if we're just saying a D or a T at the end, which is why we need this extra little vowel sound like id. Or we couldn't say end or end. It doesn't work to say that. That's why it needs to sound like an id. Visited, waited, ended, needed. All right? So those are some of the words. Now what I'm going to do is erase these, and I'm going to give you a word. And I want you to write the word and then think to yourself, does the ED sound like a T, a D, or id? All right, the first word is hugged. Hugged. So write the word hugged. Hugged. It sounds like a D. Hugged. Doesn't say hugged and it doesn't say hugged. It says hugged, so it sounds like a D, even though we have the ED ending. Next word. Filled. Filled. You filled my bucket when you hugged me. Filled. Should have an ed on the end there. Filled. Next word, ended. 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 The movie ended at 8 p.m. End. There's our root word, ended. So ended, it sounds like id. Ended. And the word stopped. Stopped. The snow stopped yesterday and the sun came out. Stopped. This ed sounds like what? A T, a D, or an id? Sounds like a T. Stopped. Excellent job. So next time when you're writing a word that you know is in the past tense, even if it sounds like a T at the end, know that you have to write an ed, and sometimes ed makes the T sound because of this consonant right here. Okay? Excellent job. So you have a word sort to do that has some words that end in ed that either make the T, the D, or the id sound, and you need to sort them based on those three. All right? After that, you'll use some of the words in a sentence, and I'm looking forward to reading them. Excellent job today. Keep it up.